Hello and welcome to another video. Today I'm going to be talking about why I really like Blue Box because I just finished watching the anime and I really enjoyed it. Now I will say I haven't watched like a ton of romance animes in my time, but I really do like this one and I feel like it's up there in terms of romance animes for me because I feel like it's just incredibly realistic. I mean, in the same way that I really liked Given, the anime for just being incredibly realistic with how it portrays relationships. This is the same, although in a sort of different way, but you get my drift. It's just incredibly realistic. I mean, just this anime is basically how this type of relationship that is being portrayed in the show would be in actuality in real life, not even like in a different show context or anything like that. No, this would be how it would play out in real life, maybe besides some of the dramaticism, but you kind of have to ham up some of the dramaticism for a show, so that makes sense. But again, I feel like every decision the show makes sense and would be realistic. It doesn't feel out of place at all. And I feel like that's an incredible accomplishment, especially for a romance anime where I feel like a lot of them just go exactly as planned and don't really have that many pit stops or falls in relationships or just generally any sort of pushback. When in this anime, it's kind of the opposite. There's kind of a love triangle going on, but it's not like a cheesy love triangle. It actually is a, realistic love triangle. I'm going to keep saying realistic because that's what this anime is. It's just the exact definition of a realistic romance. That's just what it is. But also, just generally, I really love that this anime really highlights that people can, believe it or not, have different feelings at different times. They can start to love somebody at their own pace. And I feel like that's what doesn't get explained in basically any other romance anime I've seen, besides maybe one or two. Again, I feel like they really highlight that point extremely well. But I also really like how it just highlights that, sometimes you want to be shy. You don't want to, confess your feelings because you might be overstepping their boundaries. You don't know. You might be, just going too quick. Like it does an incredibly good job at just respecting the main character's boundaries and just trying to figure out how to maybe sidestep it, or just not sidestep boundaries, but just respect their boundaries and not, overstep them. And I feel like, again, it's done with extremely well, but also just generally, I think all the characters are just really well written. I also really like the art style and the overall animation. It just looks stellar. Even for a romance anime, it looks extremely good. I really like the lighting. And overall, it's just fun. It's just a fun art style. And I also really like when it goes into the sort of like chibi mode or whatever you call it, like where everybody just kind of turns into like blobs that have very like few facial animations, but it's very funny. And I feel like the comedy also, the brief moments of comedy do hit as well, and just generally are pretty nice and just add this sort of light-hearted airness to the show. But I also, again, really like how it deals with rejection and just overall getting turned down extremely realistically. It just displays how getting rejected feels and how that person may react after getting basically their heart broken. And again, it's done with extremely well, but it also respects that person and doesn't immediately want to move on from that, but also says that, you have to move on sometime eventually and you can't just harp on it forever, and maybe just find some different things to focus on for the time being, or maybe just do some other things or hang out with different people, or just generally find like other things to do while still not completely forgetting about what happened and making it a learning experience, and just generally just improving yourself because of it and finding out, what did I do wrong, maybe just generally, again, it's a learning experience. And I feel like it's done with or dealt with extremely well in the show. What some people may disagree with me on, though, is the ending. And I'll give some spoilers here. I think the name is Chinatsu and Taiki, the main two characters, did go on a date at the end, which this show was basically building up to. And they didn't outright say it at the end, a big confession saying, I love you and all that. But I feel like, honestly, it wasn't really needed. Maybe there's going to be a season 2, although, honestly, because it's a Netflix original series, probably not, let's be honest. But If there is, that would probably be explained a little more, and also just generally would show how the date would actually have gone, which would be nice. But again, either way, even though it is kind of an open-ended ending, I feel like it works well because you already know that they both love each other. They already confess their love, just not directly yet. They probably did it in the manga, but I just haven't read it because obviously I've only watched the anime. But again, they already confessed their love anyway, so you know that they have reciprocating feelings. They both love each other, but it just took Chinatsu a little longer to reciprocate those feelings back. But again, that's how things go. That's how it plays out in real life. People don't automatically just fall in love immediately at the same time. And again, this show really respects not only that, but also different characters' inputs on things, but also them not wanting to overstep things, but also just generally, again, just dealing with romance extremely well and respecting people's boundaries and, again, just being realistic. That's the bottom line of this video. I know I said I was going to keep repeating it, and I did, but you get my point, and that's kind of going to be it. And I will see you guys later. Goodbye.